These days it feels like to really get your message out there, you gotta have a solid social media gang. Yeah. And it's not just about like randomly posting anywhere, right? It's a whole strategy. So we're going to do a deep dive into social media diversification today. We're going way beyond just, trying to be on every single platform. We've got some great excerpts for this one. A chapter from a textbook. It's called Introduction to Social Media Diversification. And we've got a guide all about understanding your audience. That one's called Understanding Your Audience. And we've even got a piece that uses that, that classic don't put all your eggs in one basket analogy. So should we just jump right in? Sounds good to me. Okay, cool. So, Introduction to Social Media Diversification starts off with a really, really clear definition. It basically says it's about strategically spreading your content, tailoring it to each platform and using each platform's strengths. Yeah, I think the good way to think about it is it's like the difference between you're showing up and actually, knowing how to work a room. Like, take Instagram, for example. The source points out that it's built for visuals. So imagine you've got I don't know, like a fashion brand launching a new collection. They could use high quality photos and reels to showcase their designs, give like behind the scenes peeks, styling tips, that sort of or totally. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You'd never just like dump a product photo on LinkedIn for exactly. The source actually highlights LinkedIn as like, your professional hub. It's all about thought leadership, B2B interaction, that sort of thing. It's where you'd share like an in-depth article maybe about, I don't know, the future of sustainable fashion or like a case study about a successful marketing campaign. Okay, so we get that different platforms have different vibes for sure. But why is diversifying so important in the first place? Well, remember that eggs in one basket analogy we talked about earlier from different channel on social media is important. Introduction to social media diversification also touches on this, Like, what if your main platform just suddenly implodes? Algorithm changes, outages, who knows? It'd be like building your house on like a fault line. Oh, for sure. I've definitely felt that panic when like a platform's down, even for just a few hours. Oh. But it's more than just avoiding disaster, right? It's also about connecting with the right people in the right places, right? Absolutely. Think about how differently people use TikTok versus LinkedIn. Like on TikTok, it's all about entertainment, quick hits, catching a trend. But LinkedIn users, they're looking for professional development, industry insights, that kind of thing. You can't just copy paste your content and expect it to like hit the same way. Right, right. And this is where like really understanding your audience comes into play. Yeah. And understanding your audience takes this way beyond just like basic demographics, doesn't it? Absolutely, yeah. It's all about asking those deeper questions. Like, what are you actually trying to achieve with your social media presence? What are your competitors up to? And, crucially, where are the gaps that you can fill? So it's less about, like, okay, my target audience is women aged 5 to 35, and more about understanding their specific needs and behaviors on each platform, right? Exactly. It's like, are they on TikTok for a quick laugh or to actually learn something new? Are they on LinkedIn to network or to try to, find a job? The way to consume content on each platform is going to be totally different. And understanding your audience really, really emphasizes that. Yeah. I even noticed that in my own social media use. Like on Instagram, I'm all about, visual inspiration, like art, design, that sort of thing. But then on Twitter, oh, I'm way more likely to get into those like heated debates about current events. And that's the kind of insight that can honestly make or break your whole social media strategy. Speaking of which, understanding your audience brings up a tool that might sound a little intimidating at first, but it's actually incredibly helpful once you get the hang of it. Audience personas. I'll admit, when I hear persona, I kind of think of those like super corporate marketing presentations. Yeah, but the way understanding your audience explains it, it's actually kind of fun. It's like, creating characters for your ideal audience. Exactly. It's like putting a face to the data. So instead of just saying like, oh, I'm targeting young professionals, you create this whole profile. So maybe it's Alex, a 28-year-old graphic designer who loves vintage video games and is passionate about eco-friendly design, but, they're struggling to find clients who share those values. Oh, yeah, yeah. Suddenly it's not just a statistic, it's like a real person with real needs and desires. And understand your audience really walks you through that whole process of creating these personas step by step. It even gives you like a framework for figuring out which platforms your persona is likely to like hang out on. It's a total game changer, honestly. It helps you visualize who you're talking to and tailor your content accordingly. But That's just the tip of the iceberg. We still need to figure out how to actually apply all of this to different platforms and create a truly diversified social media strategy. Right, right. That's the big question. So how do we take all this, amazing persona work and knowledge and turn it into something like actionable? That's what we're going to tackle next. Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. We know WHY diversification matters, and we're starting to get a handle on, WHO. We're actually talking to you. But now comes the exciting part, putting it all into practice. All right. Yeah, it's all well and good to have these awesome personas and know which platforms they're using, but how do we actually like translate that into a killer social media strategy? Well, let's circle back to introduction to social media diversification for a sec. Remember how it reminds us that each platform has its own unique, strengths and content formats that work best? They talk about Instagram being, visual first and LinkedIn being more professional and redactly. But we gotta think about, the nuances within those broader categories, too. Like on Instagram, for example, you might use stories for those, behind-the-scenes glimpses, and then Reels for showcasing products in a more creative way. Maybe even IGTV for, longer form educational content. It's all visual, but in very different ways. So it's not just about slapping the same photo on every platform and calling it a day. Oh, definitely not. Think about our persona, Alex, the graphic designer who's, into vintage video games and eco-friendly design. Let's say you're a company selling, I don't know, sustainable art supplies. On Instagram, you could do a reel showing Alex using your paints to create a really cool retro inspired design. And then on LinkedIn, you'd maybe share an article about the environmental impact of traditional art supplies. Yeah, and how your company is offering a greener alternative. Exactly. Same target audience, but totally different approach. LinkedIn is all about, providing value, establishing that thought leadership, especially within that professional context. Okay, I'm with you. So we're being mindful of different content formats for different platforms. But is there still a risk of just replicating content? Taking that Instagram reel and posting it as a video on LinkedIn. That's where those platform-specific nuances we were talking about come in. Remember how we talked about how, people consume content so differently? Like on TikTok, for example. You've got to grab their attention in, the first few seconds, or you're, going to scroll right past you. It's got to be short, snappy videos, catchy music, that sort of thing. Yeah, but then on LinkedIn, people are, way more willing to invest their time if it offers genuine insights. Maybe it's a polished video presentation or, a thought-provoking interview with an industry expert. And you've got it. It puts out adapting your content to fit the platform's style and your audience's expectations. This is making me realize just how much, strategy goes into a diversified approach. It's not just about being everywhere. It's about being, smart about where you are and what you're doing there. Could have thought of that myself. Different channel and social media is important. Actually, it makes a great point about this, too. It says diversification isn't just about reaching more people. It's also about mitigating risk. If one platform suddenly tanks or changes its algorithm, you're not left totally scrambling. Oh, totally. It's like having a backup generator, but for your social media presence. Now, but it's not just about content creation, right? Yeah, there's also that whole engagement piece, interacting with your followers and responding to comments, actually building those relationships. Everyone looks different on every platform too. On Instagram, it might be about doing, Q&As on your stories or replying to DMs to build a more personal connection. Whereas on LinkedIn, it'd probably be more about joining industry groups and contributing to those discussions in a professional way. Right, exactly. And think about how this ties back to those personas we created. If we're trying to connect with, Alex, the graphic designer, what kind of engagement do you think would really resonate with them on each platform? Maybe they'd love a design challenge on Instagram, but then really appreciate a thoughtful discussion about ethical design practices on LinkedIn. Ooh, I like that. It's all starting to click now. It's each platform is its own little world with its own rules and customs, And to succeed, you got to learn how to speak a language. Well said. And understanding your audience even touches on how each platform has its own algorithm and how those algorithms prioritize different kinds of content. So not only do we need to tailor our content to the platform and EDB audience, yeah, we also have to understand what the algorithm's even looking for just to, get seen in the first place. I know, right? It can feel a bit overwhelming, but that's why having that clear strategy from the get-go is so important. And remember, This is just the beginning. As you dive deeper into the world of social media diversification, you'll discover even more, like, nuances and opportunities for growth. This deep dive has, like, really opened my eyes. I used to, being on all the platforms, but now I see it's like so much deeper than that. It's really about being strategic, being intentional with, everything you do, understanding your audience, tailoring that content, and engaging in a way that really resonates, on each specific platform. Yeah, and remembering that each platform is like its own little world. It's got its own language, its own, like, culture even. Exactly. And that's where introduction to social media diversification brings up this, like, really interesting concept, cross promotion. Ooh, I'm intrigued. What's that all about? So basically, it's using the strengths of each platform to kind of, like, drive traffic to the others. Think of it like weaving a web, you know? One that connects all your social media efforts. So instead of keeping each platform in its own little silo, you're, like, using them to amplify each other. Exactly. Like, let's say you've got this, I don't know, blog post on sustainable design that you think would really resonate with, Alex, a graphic designer persona. Yeah. You could share, like, a snippet of it on Instagram, highlighting my key takeaways, and then encourage people to click the link in your bio to read the whole thing. Oh, that's smart. Using the visual appeal of Instagram to drive traffic to your blog. Right. Or imagine, like, launching a new line of eco-friendly art supplies. You could tease the launch on Twitter, create that buzz and anticipation, and then direct people to your website or LinkedIn page for more info and pre-orders. I love that. It's like creating this little treasure hunt for your audience, leading them from platform to platform. Exactly. And don't forget, if our channel on social media is important, reminds us about that whole, constantly shifting social media landscape, the algorithm, the platform changes, cross promotion helps you build that resilience. So even if one platform, like, totally crashes or changes its rules, you still got all these other ways to reach your audience. You got it. It's all about creating that multifaceted strategy that lets you adapt and evolve. Man, this deep dive has been, like, truly eye-opening. I feel like I've got a whole new understanding of social media and a toolbox full of strategies I can actually use. And this is just the start, really. The beauty of social media is that it's always evolving, so there's always something new to learn and explore. That's what I love about it. It's a challenge, for sure, but it's also this amazing opportunity to connect with people, build a community, and share your message with the world. I haven't said it better myself. So, as you go off on your social media diversification adventures, I really encourage you to go back and revisit those sources we explored today. They're full of, insights and practical advice that can help you really level up your strategy. And I'm going to leave you with this one final thought as you're, fine-tuning your approach. Just keep asking yourself, what would my ideal audience persona actually find valuable on this platform? Yeah, if you can answer that, you're well on your way to creating a truly engaging and impactful social media presence. Tacky diversifying.